once, but my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I am your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 60th year of the award at the 64th Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1991. Today's guest has been on many times before, last discussing A Christmas Carol and the nominees of 1972. Please welcome host of the Lone Acting Nominees podcast, Gordon McNulty. Hello, Gordon.
Hello. Happy as always to be back. Happy to be talking about this year, which I hadn't heard of or seen any of these before watching them for this episode, but I'm very excited to be talking about them.
Yes, this is a very fun year. And it's like at this time period, it's like this is when we start getting a lot of like Aardman shorts and Pixar shorts. So it's like the recognition of nominees is going back up again. But also you still get years like this where there's just like nothing that is too mainstream unless you live in Canada, but we'll get there. But yes, as always, just remind us, what is your familiarity with the best animated short category?
So especially as we get into this era that you're at by now on your show, there's more of them that I've seen. Like you said, a lot of the Aardman ones. I grew up on some of the early Pixar and Disney shorts of this era generally, but it's always fun coming on here and discovering shorts, which is a big part of why whenever you ask me, I'll always say yes, because it's always fun to just sit down for an afternoon and watch some really interesting animation that I'd never even heard of. And yeah, this is an era where there's more that I'm familiar with than earlier on of the like weird ones, the weird non-studio ones. But even still, these were all brand new to me, and I always appreciate that.
Yeah, and as someone who's been on this podcast a few times, just spanning the years, and I'm curious, like what's like your impression on like the transformation of the category, because like I've talked about it a bunch before, obviously, like I repeated over and over again like how this has changed, but it's like I want to get you like your perspective on it.
Yeah, so this is how many times is this for me? Like the
I think this is like the fifth or sixth,
somewhere around there. And like it's always wildly different, just the type of shorts that you'll get, but there are some trends. Like I'm pretty sure every time I've been on, there's always been at least one short that's completely dialogue free. That's just like a thing that I mean that also tends to just like follow with short animation in general, because it's easier to it's just easier for XYZ reasons. But yeah, I to track the like evolution away from the big studios and big like name animators, and to get to a year like this where everything seems much more independent and experimental with what you can do with animation. It's always fun to see not just like animators branching out, but like the Academy branching out to get some more unique styles in there.
Yes, the animation branch is branching. We love it for that.
Exactly.
But yeah, let's not dilly-dally any further. Let's just get into these nominees. This year has 3 and will be one of the last years to have so few nominees. Our first nominee and the year's winner is Manipulation, directed by Daniel Greaves. This is the first and only nomination and win for Greaves. And now Daniel Greaves seems to be a very private man. I can't say much about him. So I'll say just everything I was able to find about him. He was born at some point in Buckinghamshire, England. In 1977, he studied at West Surrey College of Art and left in 1980, uncertain whether he graduated or just dropped out. And ever since then, he's been a freelance animator, making loads of animated shorts and advertisements in a variety of styles and mediums, to the point where trying to name anything or all of them seems a futile measure. The point is, he's just been at this game a long time and is still working to this day. Hey, but the film we discussed today is his first directorial work. Manipulation is a classic tale of big guy, little guy, and in this case, art versus artist. A drawing seeks to escape the cruel hands of the man who drew him. Gordon, start us off. What did you think of Manipulation?
I really loved this one. I'm always like a sucker for any animation that plays with the fact that it's animated. Like going back as to like Duck Amuck, but like some of the early Don Hertzfeldt shorts. This past year's the ostrich one. I don't
Yeah,
remember that full title, but the
an ostrich told me the world is fake, and I think I believe it.
yes,
You
exactly.
got to
That
get
always
it out.
exactly. That always gets me. That's always like no matter how many times I see that happen, I'm always just like giddy watching it of like, "Oh, they're doing this. Oh, this is so cool and unique." And it, like with complete sincerity too, because it's always just so fun to see different animators playing with the medium and just behaving on such a meta level. And I think this one there's no exception to that. I really had fun with it. I took the most notes, if you want to call them that, out of these three, just because it was I wanted to note down a bunch of the like individual gags that they do with the animation and with the guy, the little guy as we
The
call
little
him.
guy. Yes.
Yes. No, I really liked this one.
Yeah, this is a short that I find just very interesting. Like, first of all, it does, like you kind of mentioned, it's like it plays with different mediums of animation to get the story across. Like it starts out with simple just drawing on paper, or but then it's just like when you have the drawing like interact with the medium it's in, and it's like you also have like the animator's hand that's in stop motion, or pixelation might be more accurate. And then you got like, and as it goes on, you start getting like full on stop motion with like this paper body or whatever. And it's just very, I love how it mixes the styles of animation. And some of the shots, like I'm not even sure how they were able to accomplish that, like with like the way the paper is crumbling, yet still making sure that the guy is still moving on the paper. Or it's very it's very impressive just to watch. Um, and as you were saying, like when I was looking at the reviews, everybody mentioned Duck Amuck. Like everybody was just like, "Yeah, this is just like Duck Amuck, except newer and like it's not by a studio, it's lower budget, things like that." But what I was reminded of, like it took me a long time to actually get around to watching Duck Amuck. I didn't grow up on Looney Tunes shorts, but I did grow up on like flash animations and things like that. And there was this one
Yeah.
series called, I think it was called like Animation versus Animator, or where it's just like you got this stick figure guy battling against the cursor that's trying to like throw him in the trash or whatever. He goes into like the Windows background and things like that. Uh,
Yeah, I think I remember that one.
yeah, it was a whole
Yeah.
series too. But yeah, it's just like that. That's what comes to mind for me. But also, yeah, Duck Amuck is the example. It's one of the most famous short films of all time. I'm as just like that's what comes to mind. And but the thing about this short is, while I appreciate it, I didn't think it was the most fun thing. Like it certainly has its charm, but it's like I feel like there's just something missing with it. And I think the thing that it's missing is that the soundscape is just so empty. Like there's some minor sound effects with like crumpling paper and things like that. Maybe like the squish of like the liquid we have in the early parts of the short. Or but it's just like there's no music or anything. There's no other like sound effects. It's all it the silence is unnerving to me. It's just like I would have liked a bit more going on like audio I forgot what the word for that is. But
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like I feel like that's kind of bad of me to say though, because I feel like a short shouldn't require uh audio, like it should be able to just entertain you visually, but at the same time it's just like I would have liked some more audio.
Oh yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. Like I do think that kind of at least for me personally does work to the advantage of the short because it isn't relying on like Mickey Mousing, or like having the audio or like a soundtrack be the gag, and like it allows the animation itself to take front and center
Mhm.
stage. But then on the reverse of that, you're right, it is kind of unnerving, and it does lead to a sort of surreal quality of, usually this type of thing has music, and so to not have
Mhm.
music is an intentional choice, and is it by not having music, it adds to the vibe of it. And sometimes you're right, it is an unnerving vibe that it creates. But I
Mhm.
thought it worked, but I also totally understand why it's also a bit creepy and a bit weird to just witness this little paper guy jumping around and losing his ink and throwing it like a ball, and then by the end, once the hand plays a more active part in the story and is like smudging him and pulling him apart and all
Mhm.
that, like flicking him into the, I thought that was a really good gag where the hand flicks him and like it creates forced perspective in a 2D landscape where it makes the guy go small and up to the left, and you just know that that's, I really liked the way that it played with the space of not even having a horizon line.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just blank paper. And so you can do a lot with like, oh, well, the ball of ink is going to like go this way and then turn. So you know that that means there's a wall there momentarily, but then he can go out, like there's arbitrarily a space near the bottom of the frame where he's standing.
Mhm.
I thought it was a fun way of minimalistically creating a very vivid and like felt space out of literally nothing.
Mhm.
I thought like just visually that was a really fun way to experiment in
Ex-
an extremely minimalist way.
exactly. Like the short's biggest strength is the fact that it does really take this idea, take this setup as far as it can with it. Like it does a lot of just really interesting fun gags like that you can do with a hand that is like playing with the character in its space. And it's just like, yeah, it's just really it's a film that I really appreciate, if not a when I don't like totally like have fun with it, I still have room to like appreciate it. It's a
Exactly.
it's a really interesting short, and it's something I would like expect to see in like animation schools and things like that. Like it's something that you could really show them, and just first of all just show like ways to like mix the different animation mediums, but also just how to make a short film, how to like expand upon an idea that you have just
Yeah.
take it to its fullest extent.
How to tell a story with very few, just like
Very few
parts.
parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a good short film. And it's just like looking at this lineup, it's just like I definitely see why this one. I think it's the most easily understandable. And as I've been theorizing for this past decade, it's just like I've realized that the things that win in this category, at least up to the recent day, is just like if it's lightly funny, it'll probably win. Like
Yeah.
that's the one thing. It's just like the Academy doesn't really care about like it, the art of animation at all. It just wants something that's lightly funny. it'll it'll probably win if it is.
Yeah. Yeah. They like what they like. And sometimes that's just, we're gonna make a lot of like jokes specifically about this style of animation.
Mhm. Exactly. Anything else you'd like to say about manipulation?
Uh Not that I can think of specifically. It's very simple in terms of story. It is just big guy, little guy.
Mhm.
But the big guy is like a god in the world of the little guy.
Yeah. We love these big guy little guy shorts. It's
Yeah.
half of all films ever made.
It really is. I'm glad that that has taken off.
hmm And now we move on to our second film, which is the other example, which is a sad guy making music. Our second nominee is Blackfly, directed by Christopher Hinton. This is the first nomination for Hinton and the 22nd nomination for the National Film Board of Canada, last nominated for The Cat Came Back in 1988. Hinton is another simple story. Born in Galt, a suburb of Cambridge in Ontario, Canada, Hinton was a very free spirit when it came to animating. He was never opposed to working with any company, but always floated freely between them. He worked at NFB in the early 70s, then did some work with Sesame Street later on. In the 80s, he focused mainly on independent work, only to somehow end up back at NFB in the 90s, where he would make today's nominee. And as Hinton gets a nomination later on as well, I'll save what little left there is to say about him for next time and focus on today's nominee. Uh, I had brought up The Cat Came Back earlier, and it's not just because it was the last NFB nominee, but also because this film feels almost like a pseudo successor to that film. Like The Cat Came Back, Blackfly is based on a folk song from the 1940s about a blood-sucking black flies from North Ontario, and is also about the feeble attempts of a man to get away from an annoying pest. Uh, First of all, I just want to say that I love the short, I love the song, I love the animation, and the similarities to Cat Came Back are just like not unending because they are two different films. They are two independent pieces of art, but it's just like they both feel like they're accomplishing very similar goals. And just like when I read like people talking about them, I see a lot of Canadians who are like, yeah, I watched this a lot on like CBC or whatever, or whatever channels they have in Canada. It's just like I watched it a lot on TV when I was a kid. It's just played over and over again. And it's just like these two shorts have both those similarities. But to focus on just Blackfly, uh, yeah, this is amazing. I am a sucker for a catchy song, and this is perhaps the catchiest song there is. This this film has been stuck in my mind ever since I first watched these shorts back in like 2019, I think it was, maybe 2020. Hey, and it has dug a hole in the depths of my mind and has not left. Like I even after the one time I watched it, probably in the middle of like 20 other short films, I could still hear, I still remember like the chorus of this song, the black fly, the little black fly, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it just stays there forever. And when we were coming up to this episode, like once I had like settled it with Gordon, get the date and everything, it's just like it just came back. It just kept running through my mind. And it's just like before I even like sat down to watch these three, I still went back to this one first and just rewatched that. And then later I watched this one with the other two. And just before coming here, I watched it again. And there's been other times where I just like turn it on for a little bit, or I find other versions of the song. And it's like the Black Fly itself. It is just a pest that is impossible to run away from. But unlike the Black Fly, this thing isn't sucking my blood. It's just a fun little song that I enjoy. How
Yeah,
about you, Gordon?
I really like this one. I don't know if I had quite the like obsessive nature as that. But I've had that happen plenty of times. I know how that can be. No, I really like this one. I think it's a fun it moves very fun, very in a very engaging way. Like it never slows down, like literally in terms of the movement of the animation, but also just like in the pace of the song and the pace of the story being told. Uh yeah, I really like this one. It's just a lot of fun, and sometimes you need one that's like not funny necessarily, but just a lot of fun to sit down and watch and listen to and engage with, and just watch this guy get beset by a bunch of flies.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's all you need in life.
Exactly. Like it is just fun. It can be fun to just see things be annoying to a person. It's just like, yes, we don't like when things are annoying to ourselves, but it can be funny to see other people be annoyed. Like, and
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, I, I don't really have much like intellectual to say about this. It's just really fun. And it's but of course like the animation is great. And the song itself, like uh, outside of its catchiness, is like really well written. It has like a really fun bounciness to it that really keeps that energy up and things like that. But also, it's just a lot of fun. I could watch this one over and over. And like this same kind of obsessiveness to me happened recently with Bill Plimpton's Your Face as well. Oh, because that one also has a song in it that it's not as catchy, but it's something that's like very melodic, I guess. It's like a tune that gets stuck in your head. And it's like and that one was on Spotify and I listened to that one a bunch.
Oh boy.
But yes, this. Um yeah, like I don't have much intellectual to say. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. There isn't all that much to say necessarily with this one. Like it's I like the colors. I think it's colorful in a way that doesn't seem like it's, blinding me and burning my eyes out with just like, oh, like oversaturated. It's it just moves. I don't have a ton to say on this one, but it's just a lot of fun and it's a good time. And yeah, it's a very catchy song that you won't be annoyed for having it still stuck in your head however many days later, because it's just one of those fun like folk songs that you can just sit with for a while.
I think some people might be annoyed because I do know
Maybe.
that Christoph, our favorite guest and listener, um, he he does not like this short. Well, his letterbox review is simply annoying song, great animation, and so. But there are two little details that I do really like in the short, and they're both in like the credit sequences. It's like the beginning. Rarely do I ever see like a play on the NFB like logo or intro. Like it's usually just like the plain logo before going into the short. It's not like with Warner Brothers where they have a specialized logo for every single film. But this one, so the NFB logo is like a little guy and his hands are above his head forming like an eye, like a person's eye. And it's like and this one, it starts out with like the logo like scratching itself because of all the black flies around it before going
Yeah.
into its logo. And I just think that's a lovely little detail. It starts off the short with just so much character already before getting into the whole thing. And at the end, uh, some people might not notice this. They might turn it off like right as the credits start. But there's a little point in the middle of the credits where it's just a skeleton tap dancing. And it's like I'm not sure why that's there, but I do really love that it's there.
Oh, I totally missed that. I'll have to go back and watch that after we're
Yeah.
done.
This is a cute little thing of like a skeleton that he's dancing. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. Maybe it's just a sign that the black flies will come for us all. Who knows?
Yeah. We'll all get devoured by nature.
Mhm. Yeah, and I also just love in the short the like half the short is like watching the guy like running away from the black flies, trying to kill them or whatever. But another part of it is just watching the black flies have fun. Like there's a point where like they're like diving and there's black fly judges with the numbers. There's a point where they're like doing like the Rockettes or a can type thing on a stage. They're doing like a Bubsy Berkeley swimming number, things like that. It's just it this short just has so much charm to it. I can't help
Yeah.
but love it.
Yeah. It's good. This is a good one.
Mhm. Oh, and one last thing. Uh, so the guy who wrote this song, Wade Hemsworth, he wrote this song in 1949, and like he was a singer back then. And it was shocking to me when I found out when I was looking up like who sung this version. It's the same guy. He recorded a new version for the short, but it's just like this was 1991, and he recorded that song in 1940, whatever. It's just like I would have thought that like he was old as fuck back then, wouldn't be alive now. But no, he died in 2005, was born in like 1920 something.
Oh
And
wow.
so he was like 30s when he first recorded it, but it's like 70s, I think, when he sang the song for this version. So just fun little thing there. It's they were able to get the original guy back for the short film. I think that's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
I love folk songs. I love folk songs. They're great.
Yeah, same here. It's a underappreciated genre.
Hmm. And I think that's a good place to move on to our third and final nominee, which is Strings, directed by Wendy Tilby. This is the first nomination for Tilby, and later on she will receive nominations alongside frequent collaborator Amanda Forbes, including just this past year for The Flying Sailor. But this one, she's on her own. This is also the 23rd nomination for the National Film Board of Canada. They had a 2 out of 3 shot to win this year and failed. I'd be shocked if it was not expected. Anyhow, Wendy Tilby was born in 1960 in Edmonton, in Alberta, Canada, studied first visual arts and literature at the University of Victoria before moving on to study film and animation at the Emily Carr Institute of Art and Design, where she met Amanda Forbes. She was invited to join the NFB right out of college, thanks to her stellar student film, Tables of Content, and has had a lovely relationship with the board ever since. Strings was her first film with the NFB, and a running theme across the works of Tilby and Forbes is their adventures into different animation styles. For this film, Tilby used paint on glass animation, as we've seen before with the likes of Alexander Petrov, and especially Caroline Leaves the Street. Strings tells the story of a woman, a Titanic enthusiast, who takes a bath every time the string quartet below her apartment practices, their music letting her imagine she's on the Titanic. A leak in her bathtub, however, leads their worlds to collide. Gordon, what did you think of Strings?
I loved this one. I just from like
Wow.
the very beginning, seeing the animation style of it, the paint on glass is just so visually striking in a style that I'm not really used to seeing in animation. I haven't seen some of those other ones you mentioned there, and I'll have to check those out just because I
I'll
loved
definitely send
the
you the street.
yeah, definitely, please do. I thought this one was really phenomenal. Just in such a simplistic story. Again, another one without any dialogue, which I'm always a fan of, and in seeing how you can tell an entire story and get across such really strongly felt emotions. Like this one really moved me in a way I wasn't expecting it to. Uh Again, without any dialogue, without any like even vocalizations for these characters that are just so stylistically drawn and really inhabited by the animation. I thought it was really well done, and I had a really not had a good time with it because it's melancholy to a degree,
Mhm.
but I thought it was a really fascinating piece of art.
Yeah, this one is just a sight to behold. I also just really love the paint on glass animation style to begin with. I often praise Alexander Petrov. A lot of people do, but I love him as well. But yeah, this is just stylistically interesting. I'm also a Titanic nerd, which meant this kind of hit close to home a bit. And I also take baths a bunch, so it's just like I kind of see myself as this older woman here. But
Yeah.
it's just it it's just first off, the short is very first of all, there's no dialogue. It's a very deliberately paced film. It's like takes its time with its setting, with just establishing the characters and stuff, and just watching them move around and everything. And it's just it it creates this very specific mood that is very it's something you don't quite feel that much whenever you watch movies. I don't even know how to describe the emotion that it puts me in, but it's unlike anything else. And I'm not even sure what to say. I'm just struggle to really encapsulate what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling here. But
It's like it's one of those stories that makes you like really consider your place in the world relative to everyone else around you,
yeah.
and how just like there's whole worlds out there that we just will never interact with, but like are just as real as ours, and like
Mhm.
it doesn't really deal with that on any scale grander than like a pair of upstairs downstairs neighbors, but like is so universal in that feeling that is just extremely striking for such a simple version of that type of story.
Hmm. Yeah, like it's it's a definitely like a smaller story that's able to touch on larger ideas as and it's just like it's it's just so perfectly small and the way like the story that it's telling here, the however brief it is it's like you could probably tell the whole story of this in like two sentences. But it's just the way it moves, the way it tells it, just brings everything out of what little there is and gives you something just truly beautiful. And it's like I just really enjoy this. And especially enjoy the scenes like when the woman like actually gets into the bath and starts listening to the music and you see like the scenes of the Titanic just traveling along the ocean. It's just like that's just so beautiful to me. That just fucking hit. Also the ending, which it feels weird to not even want to spoil the ending, but I don't want to spoil the ending to this. It's
Yeah.
just it's such a beautiful final note.
Yeah,
It's
no, I'm with you on all of that.
it's so good.
It's and the animation again, the paint on glass, the way that like the close-ups of their faces, there's just so much detail filling the entire screen, and it doesn't feel like I'm overwhelmed with having to pay attention to it all. You can just take it in all at once and see these faces and the details of the apartments that we're watching. It's not a minimalist style, but it feels so quaint and so like unassuming for being so visually expressive that I found that really charming.
Mhm. There was this one thing I read about why Wendy Tilby she chose to do paint on glass animation, or why she enjoys that style. Oh, because while she doesn't do it later on, I think her first few films are paint on glass. And what she said was that like it forces you to not dwell too much on the frames you've already drawn because those are all gone in the past. It's like you've already taken those pictures. You can't really do much about them. But you just gotta keep kind of moving forward and just keep the animation flowing.
Yeah,
And it's just like I feel like that kind of resonates in this film too. It's just like you just gotta kind of live life. Like life keeps going on. Just gotta keep going. Try to make do with what you have, you know?
exactly. Exactly.
Also, this film has a cat. It's a very good
Yeah.
cat.
Yeah, the shot where the cat is looking at the table with all the sardines on it.
Hmm.
The cat's got a good face in that shot. I thought that was a funny look at that cat. It's a funny
It
looking cat.
this is just so good. Uh I we could probably just spend like half an hour just going, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Remember this shot? Yeah, that was so good.
Oh
It's
yeah,
so
definitely.
uh but do you have anything else you noticed with this short? Anything else you want to mention?
The shot where she's first turning on the bath and you're seeing the water sort of like lap over the drain plug. I thought the water itself was animated really well, especially knowing the medium that she was working with. I think it's very impressive. Again, unassuming, but extremely impressive when you like take the time to really consider the work that would have gone into making this in this way.
Hmm. Yeah, paint on glass especially just seems so impressive to me. Like the way you like because it's the way you just like move the oil around and it'll just paint over it or it's just like because it's not like the way animators like do it, the way they talk about it is like it's not like they're erasing the whole canvas and then repainting the whole thing. That's a waste of oil. They just kind of move the oil around. They shift it with like their fingers or like other instruments. And it's like you can also see that in the animation itself. It's like you see the movements of the brushes and things like that. It's kind of similar
Yeah.
to um some claymation where you can see like the animator's fingerprints and stuff on it. And it's just like, and that's something that's really like charming about the style, just like those kind of animation styles, because you see the work that's being put into it. You see little traces of them, and it's just like it's just a little reminder that this is handcrafted, that this is made specifically. Yeah, it's just great.
Yeah, I always love that literal mark of the artist when you can see it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just it, people at home. It's just like you gotta watch this.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right, I think that's a good place to stop with that one. And now that we've gone through and talked about these three nominees, let's rank them all. Gordon, I'm very curious about your ranking, Gordon. Start us off with your number three.
I'm also kind of curious about my ranking here. I think, and again, I loved all of these. I think any one of them would have been a very worthy winner, and any one of them I would recommend. And I have friends that are like in school for animation and art and whatever. And when we're done here, I'm going to recommend all of these to them of like, hey, check out these great animations. But I think my number three here, I'm sorry, is maybe Blackfly,
Okay.
which is still very good. Again,
The Blackflies are going to get you for this. They're going to
they
go
are.
from Northern Ontario to where you live. I'm sorry,
Uh,
Ontario.
Ontario. Uh, I do I do all my rankings now, or do you do
Oh,
yours?
I
Three.
thought you had more to
I
say.
oh no, I don't. I just couldn't remember the format. It's been
Oh
a
yeah,
bit
we
since
go
we've
back
been
and
here.
forth.
Okay, I
Your
thought
number
so.
three, my number three, your number two, my number two, your number one, my
Yes,
number one. But yeah, my number three is Manipulation. Uh, where it's a film I really respect. It's a film I did enjoy, but at the same time, it's just like that music thing just kind of really got me. It's just like it. I feel like I could have had a lot more fun with this if there was a bit more like audio element to it. Like it didn't even that have to be music, just more like ways that the audio of it is interacting with the animation itself outside of just minor sound effects. But
yeah,
still, good short. Would still recommend. It's worth watching if you're like an animator and wants to study animation. It's just like it's a good place for that. But yeah, you're number two, Gordon.
for sure. I to agree with all of the things you just said. My number two would be Manipulation. Uh, partially because I think I was comparing it to a lot of those other movies, like Duck Amuck, like An Ostrich Told Me the World Is Fake, and I think I believe it. Like
There you go. Good job.
specifically Rejected, but like a lot of Don Hertzfeldt stuff, especially from like his like student films. A lot of them get into this sort of playing with the fact that these are drawings on paper. And I did really like it. I didn't have quite the same hang up as you about the audio, but I understand that one. And yeah, no, I again, also very good.
Mhm.
Also a good winner in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely a solid winner. But my number two is Strings, uh, which yes, I did really love this. I think it's gorgeous film. Uh, I think it maybe moves a bit too slowly at times. I think like it's definitely the deliberate pacing does kind of like especially at the beginning of it, where you're just kind of waiting to really realize what's going on. But still, just a very beautiful film, and I did really love it. I love so many of the scenes. I love the story. I love the two old people here too. They're both so great. They're well designed and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, number two is Strings. Please
And
watch it.
my yes. And please watch it even more. My number one is Strings. I just everything about this really got me in a way I wasn't expecting to, even at first. Like it took me a little bit into it for me to realize, oh, I'm loving this.
Mhm.
And then just like sitting with it and letting it play out and letting it sort of wash over me. There's just so much about this one to love and to find real heart in. And I wasn't expecting that. And it really got me. And yeah, no, it's great. It's well animated, well story told, well, just everything. Everything about it is really really something else.
Mhm. And my number one is Blackfly because I am just a sucker for short films that center around a catchy song, where things like this and The Cat Came Back and Your Face, and there's a lot of short films that are like this in this category that are just about that are more about the song than any kind of story that's happening in the short. And I get why people don't like these kind of shorts. But I love this one. I love them. This one's great. It's a lot of fun, and I will probably watch it like five more times after we finish recording this, just because it's just scratches an itch in my mind, and it's just like it's perfect for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just because I put it number 3 here. I just had to put something in number 3, but no, I still really love it, and
Yeah,
that's a very good pick.
yeah. That just kind of happens sometimes, where you get some of these like really good lineups, and it's just like, oh wait, now I'm gonna have to rank them, and that's part of why I do the rankings. It's just to make people like put yourself in the place of an Academy voter and just be like, okay, I have to vote for one of these. Which one is it gonna be? And it's just like you just gotta choose.
Exactly.
But yeah, uh, before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Gordon, or anything you'd like to promote?
Uh no final thoughts off the top of my head. But yeah, I can always shout out my own podcast again, the Lone Acting Nominees. Talk about movies that only got one Oscar nomination, which is in one of the acting categories. You've been on it multiple times, and
Mhm.
uh yeah, no, it's going strong so far. I've been working at it. I don't know when this comes out, so I don't know to promote whichever the upcoming one is, but go check it out in general, and just whatever is upcoming, listen to it if you want to, I guess. I don't know. Or don't. I'm not a cop.
Thank God you're not. But
Yeah.
but yeah, though we don't know like what's going to come out. Like this episode is going to come out September 28th, but I'm not sure if you know at the top of your head what's going to come out then. But also,
I do not.
I would just shout out the Jessica Lange miniseries that you're doing right now, where you focus on the how many nominations is it? Four, five?
The 4 lone nominees of Jessica Lange.
Yeah.
Country, Sweet Dreams, Music Box, and as we're recording this, I'm about to do our final episode on Blue Sky. So I've got that to look forward to.
Hmm. Yeah. Go check out that miniseries on Gordon's podcast. And also, uh, I while we had set this up, I'm just gonna tell the story as it occurred to me. So I was just on YouTube one day and I saw an upload called "This Won't Summon Shit" mashup album. I was
Oh
just
yeah.
like oh what's this? And it's just like and I listened to it and it's if you people at home are familiar with like the Neil Cicierega mouth sounds, mouth moods, it's another mashup album that kind of vein, and I was really enjoying it. And it's just like, wait, who made this? Why am I subscribed to them? And I saw Mark Wahlberg, which is Gordon's Twitter handle. And it's just like, wait, did Gordon make this? It's like
Yeah.
I had no idea that you made like these mashup albums, and so I DM'd you on Twitter. It's just like, hey, did you make this? And it's like I was already subscribed to the channel for some reason. It must have been like I just found it from your Twitter page or something, or maybe you promoted something that you
Probably
had
for
made before.
the Oscar compilation videos I've made a handful of in the past.
That
Maybe from
too.
that. Yeah.
But but yeah, it's just a great you people at home, if you do enjoy like mashup albums and things like that, go check out Jordan Gordon's stuff. You have a lot of albums here. And that's
Yeah,
just like
I just sort of do it when some of them come to me whenever I think of something, and so I've ended up making a bunch of those in like the past year and a half, and so yeah, check them out. They're not all great. Some of them are pretty bad. But
hey,
there's some stuff in there I'm proud
that's
of.
okay. I'm just looking at these the album arts that you have here. And I think my favorite one is the one for "It's My Birthday, You Have to Be Nice to Me." That's a really genuinely gorgeous like album cover. I really like that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was just a shot I took some 4th of July of my sister standing in front of a firework.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, check out Gordon's stuff, people. Like he is a multi hyphenate. Go check out his stuff.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you for that surprise promo.
Yeah, it's just like I was surprised by it, and I want the world to know that you make this stuff too. I
Well, thank you.
but yeah. Well, and by the world, I mean our three listeners.
Yes, of
Which is
course.
Chris, actually our four listeners now, because uh you probably won't get this reference, but it's like Greta Gerwig is actually a big fan of our podcast. She made us get a million listeners, and it's just like we thank her very much for putting our podcast on the world stage. But also Christoph and Owen and Ronaldo, we love you too.
Of course.
But yeah, thank you, Gordon, for coming on the show once again, and thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.